I own and manage and develop property. You have to be able to be a risk taker. In real estate, only risks. Being a landlord is similar to being a lawyer, a cop, and a fireman, all at the same time. The best times in real estate is to start out in times like now. What happened? That you're going into bankruptcy where the rents are skyrocketing.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dave Denis.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for making the time. Dave, in your own words, tell us about yourself.
I have an interesting past. I am currently an unconventional landlord. I get to design, develop, manage, and curate property.
You are unconventional landlord. What does that mean? What does that actually mean?
That means that I take a different approach than what most landlords that are concerned about business and money. I care about the well-being of my tenants, and I want to feel good about the people I bring in my buildings. Community is first and foremost. So I hand choose my tenants. I want to feel good about those people. My business is nearly all referral.
Really? So how many apartments do you have now in New York City?
In New York City, it's about 800.
You have 800 apartments
in New York City. Yeah.
Wow. I love real estate. And actually, I think that the people who watch this channel love real estate. And we all want to be real estate entrepreneurs. Dave, you own 800 apartments in New York City.
No, I'll take that back. I do not own 800 apartments. I own and manage and develop property.
Okay. You own, manage, and develop property.
Correct.
And so, you know, for someone like myself, I would love to get into real estate, whether it just be a landlord, whether it be buying a multifamily, single family. Like, what advice do you give to somebody who wants to get into the real estate game?
The advice I would give to somebody is to find a mentor in real estate, whether it be your landlord, whether it be a friend. Learn from them, see what they do and how you can do better.
Right.
How you can change the narrative. Everybody's got their own ways and paths to getting to being that successful real estate owner or developer. I believe from my experience, a lot of that comes from mentors, from not only from real estate, but also from my past, which we'll get into, where I come from.
Right.
My origin of roots of working in fashion, working in the surf industry, and having passions for that, and how I was able to turn that into my real estate business, realizing that, wow, it's really easy to actually build a building. It just takes money, and experience.
It's really easy to build a building.
But it's harder actually to design clothing and make something fit. And there's a lot of people that are involved in that process. About fitting and sizes and different body shapes.
But same thing with real estate, right?
Well, no, because with real estate, everything conjoins, right? It's like everything fits. When you build it, you have a plan and you build it.
Right.
Fashion is very difficult.
Trying
to sew a garment to fit somebody.
Yeah.
It's not.
It's different. Yeah, because bodies are different, but real estate falls within like a framework. How old were you when you purchased your first property?
I was 28.
28 years old. And where was that? Was that in New York City?
That was in Bushwick.
That was in Bushwick. And how, if you don't mind sharing, like how much did you buy it for? What year was that?
$535,000.
$535,000 at 28 years old.
Yeah.
And so like that to me, I mean, like seems like a serious amount of risk for someone at 28, right? And what year was that? Can you remind me?
1999.
1999. You purchased your property actually in an environment that was a high interest rate environment, similar to the one that we're living in today. And so a lot of people actually think about like purchasing a home and they're like, interest rates are too high. But back in 1999, you were like, this is great. Like, why should I not be afraid to purchase my first property in this high interest rate environment?
The way that I have acquired property has all been really, a lot of it is like the timing, how things congealed to own it, how it worked. When somebody gave me an opportunity to say, hey, I'll sell you this, we can use your FHA. So that's just 3.5% down. So what's 3.5% of $535,000?
Right.
It's a small amount of money.
Right.
And that person was willing to cover costs and they had renovated it. So it was all renovated as well.
So like turnkey.
Yeah. And there was tenants living there and I kept the tenants and they were good tenants. So, and then over time, people moved and I re-rented it and then from there I went on to my next property and then from there I went on to my next property and I just kept going with it,
I just want to take you back to the question, which was like,
sorry,
what advice would you give like someone like me who I'm afraid of purchasing because it's a high interest rate environment, but in the environment that you purchased, interest rates were higher actually?
I think again, everything kind of has to fall into place when it comes to like, if you find something and you really feel something from the property,
right.
You really want this to happen. You want to make it work. You feel like there's like actually some opportunity that somebody is willing to sell you. Like you don't just come across properties. Like sometimes they just fall into your sphere.
Right.
And either you like go for it or you
live
don't.
It there. Like the interest rate is not relevant essentially.
No.
Like you either can buy or you just cannot buy.
Right.
Yeah, you're either in the game or you're not in the game.
Here's what I want to say. With real estate, it's interesting. There's a seller and a buyer, right? And they both have to work together to make a deal happen.
Right.
There's no deal that happens any other way.
Right.
It doesn't matter what size property. You have to be able to compromise and work together. And if the seller of the property is willing to work with you, then that's your gateway into the property. That's almost like you're getting the key.
Right.
You gotta kind of capture that moment and seize it.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, then it's gonna pass you by.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to be a risk taker. In real estate, only risks.
Only risks.
Yeah. It's like you have to take a risk. And I can tell you that through my past of just listening to people and observing, I've met the most interesting people that was an immigrant from Mexico, bought one property in the West Village for nothing.
Yeah.
And then bought a handful more. And now he's,
just loaded.
Yeah, he's doing really well.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of that in Brooklyn. And there's a lot of that in general that you can find where people invested money in Dallas or Houston or Chicago early on.
Right.
And, they were actually, what is real estate? Real estate is future investment.
Right.
So you got to put your big pants on and realize that, you're not getting rich fast.
Right.
And you may never even really get rich from it.
Right.
But with real estate, it's interesting. There's never a dull moment. It's like being a landlord is similar to being a lawyer, a cop, and a fireman.
At the same time?
All at the same time. All day, every day.
It's just like nonstop.
Yeah. It's just constant moving all the time. If there was no darkness at night, I would probably work all day, 24 hours a day.
This is like
it's
always
just always. I turn my phone off every night. So I actually turn my phone off.
Really?
Turn my phone.
Like you power it down.
I power it down. I don't sleep near my phone. Separate rooms. I need to separate myself at the end of the day from my phone.
Right.
And if I didn't, it would be all the time. Tenants contact at all different hours.
Really?
I'm not saying I would get back to them, but the reason why I would actually contact them is sometimes to actually show them I'm on it.
I'm here for you.
I'm on it.
Right.
And on the other note is that it clears out my emails so that by the time I do wake up, at least it's not 100 emails. Maybe it's only 25, 50.
Right.
So it's busy. I mean, I'm busy.
I mean, like let's jump in a time machine back to when you got your first property.
Yes.
And you purchased this first property for above $500,000.
Yeah.
But my question to you is like, why get into real estate in the first place? Like, and you talked about the stars aligning and like this great opportunity came into existence, but you didn't have to do it. So like, why? I mean, you could put your money in like everyone was buying Yahoo stock back in 1999, right? Like, why didn't you double down in the S&P 500 or something else opposed to real estate?
So we'll go back to my background. So my background was making clothing and in fashion, and I was a creative director of a brand that I started in 1993, 94.
What's the brand?
It was called X Dream.
X-Dream.
X-DREEM.
Okay.
And I drew a picture. I put it on a T-shirt. I gave it out to my friends as a joke. The timing was right. It was just about the mid-90s, and it took off. And I came up at a time when streetwear was just starting. So I came at that like 1.5 generation of streetwear, and the Japanese loved it and Europe loved it. And I had a juniors line that, America loved it. And it was the right time of mail order catalogs and just before the internet. So magazines were still popular, and I did quite well. And I was able to invest my money into taking my business to the next level, which would be owning your own store.
Right.
So I opened up a store on Mulberry Street. And
is that in the West Village?
No, in Nolita.
In Nolita, okay.
Yep. And I really enjoyed the process of designing the store and building it out. I got quite a bit of recognition because it was a corner space.
Right.
And there's a well-known designer. He's there in the space now. We actually kind of crossed paths throughout our whole life because we both grew up on Long Island in New York.
Yeah.
So I had this store and I really enjoyed the process, but what I didn't enjoy was retail. And after 9/11, I was able to make a deal with a very big company and the landlord, and I got out of it. That's when I started to get much more interested in real estate, which would segue to like 2001. Because after the store was gone, I didn't have it anymore. And I really enjoyed the process of building it out and, designing it. And again, like it went really well and people really loved the store. And people that remember it still talk about it. And it was just a beautiful store. And, I just met the right person and he mentored me. And because of that background, that creative background that I had, one of the first projects that we worked on, he asked me, you know what people want? Because most landlords don't.
Right.
He asked me, you know what people want? So what would you do with this dilapidated old loft building in Bushwick?
What should we do with this space?
What should we do with it? Well, we should cut it up symmetrically and we should put these really nice mold trims in it and kitchen. And he basically showed me the ropes. And it never really ended till today. We're still doing the same way.
Wow. And you're working with the same guy.
Same person.
This guy has been your mentor for X amount of years. 25?
Yeah, just about 25 years.
Yeah. That's insane.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And so, I consider him a father figure. I consider him such a great mentor that, I look after him, he looks after me.
Right.
I don't know if he would be where he is today without me. And I sure for 100% certain I wouldn't be where I am without him.
Wow.
So I can say that.
Wow, that's amazing.
He made me.
He made you. First of all, you made you. But, I think there's one thing to say about having a mentor and then actually listening to your mentor and follow their direction.
Yeah.
I think that really allows you to grow.
Yeah.
I want to rewind here because you made a comment about your clothing brand, X-Dream,
X-Dream,
which I think is amazing, especially considering like the first thing you said is it started out as a joke, and then you built this like massive clothing brand that gained popularity across the United States and in Japan. What type of clothes did you guys make?
Mostly I started out doing like graphics on t-shirts. So I came out of the surf industry and was really kind of tired of the bro politics. And at the time that surfing was still somewhat underground, but it was really coming up. Skateboarding was coming up even stronger. So there was this, you know, if you spent time in San Diego, spent time in different places, you would see like how the culture kind of synergized. Whereas on the East Coast, it was a little bit different. It's like the skaters and the surfers were kind of separate.
Right.
And as those industries grew, more people connected with it. And, you know, it is where it is today. I came into the industry in the 80s when I was just a young lad, per se. And so I saw opportunities, and I worked hard, and I worked my way up the chain, and I'm constantly thinking, I'm constantly evolving. I'm always thinking about how I can take things to the next level. How do I do that? You know, what do I need to do? So I love being prepared. I love learning.
Right.
And you have to be really open to learning, and you have to be able to like learn by your mistakes, especially in real estate, you know?
Yeah, because mistakes cost money in real estate.
You can lose your shirt. Yeah, pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And, again, having that mentor has been great. With clothing, I kind of went at it myself. And I didn't really have so much influence because I was coming out of an industry that was like bro politics. Right. So I'm thinking about, there has to be something else besides surfing and skateboarding. And there was Sean Stussy and Fresh Jive and another brand, this designer Eric Brunetti by this brand called Fucked. And, you know, you would see bands like Rage Against the Machine wearing their clothes. And since I lived in New York and most of these companies were in California and they came out of the surf and skate industry,
right,
I was in New York, and there's a lot of interesting underground stores in Manhattan at the time in the early 90s and mid 90s. And all of the bands were coming to New York. So I would pack a knapsack. I would get backstage to shows and hand deliver to those bands that I was influenced by their music, my t-shirts, and they would wear them.
Yeah.
So I did this guerrilla kind of marketing at a very young age, and it was great. And I could tell you like what I've done and what I've seen. And believe it or not, I've kept these scrapbooks where everything is taped in it. And because there was no internet. So it was all like, you know, when my clothing wound up in a magazine or in a Japanese magazine or a music magazine, or a band wrote me a letter, or I wrote a letter and they sent me something back, and everybody I've met, and what brought me to this point of opening this store in Manhattan, those scrapbooks, which I have, I mean, really helped me pave the way. And I used to bring them to trade shows. So I would display them, people could look through them. And I had some other ways over time. And, you know, I've met a lot of really interesting people, and it's been a trip. And, you know, I really enjoyed the process of clothing. But like anything else, you know, as you start to get older and you've been doing the same thing for so long, you get restless.
Yeah.
And you want to up your game, whether that be opening up a store. And then what is it after you open a store? You know, what else can you possibly do?
Right.
And it was at that point when I was able to license, and then I sold my clothing brand. I started another brand. I had a great team I was working with, really ahead of its time, getting really good press. And then by like 2008, in the recession, I was so burnt out from it all. And it was my partner that was like, you need to focus on real estate. Like, this is your time. And that's what I did. And
oh man, that was a good time.
Yeah. But there's always a good time, right? The best times in real estate is to start out in times like now. Because when the market changes, you know, in due time, the rates change, things change, right?
Things will get more favorable.
They will. It always does, right? It's always up and down.
Yeah,
It's always, everything is cyclic.
Right.
So in real estate, I've seen the bumps because I've been doing this for 25 years. I've seen when it like goes high, goes low, COVID. I've been through it all.
Been through it all.
You know?
Yeah.
The moral here is in real estate that I can explain to you and to your viewers is buy as low as possible.
Okay.
Buy for as, I don't want to sound like I'm some cheapskate, but you want to be able to sleep at night. And real estate's an investment.
Right.
So for those people that bought property in the Bronx and in Harlem and in Bushwick and in Bed-Stuy 10, 15 years ago, there's rewards to that if they still have property.
Yeah.
You know, if they held it and they didn't sell it to go bigger.
Right.
You know, which is something that I did. I took small properties and I've expanded to a larger scale.
Right.
Because that's where I'm at. And I have to take that risk if I want to take it to the next level.
Yeah.
I like to say that, you know, when you have, let's say, 10 3-unit buildings, wouldn't it be easier just to have one 30-unit building?
For sure.
Right. So it's a lot of cost factor when it comes to having these 10 3-unit properties as opposed to a 30-unit.
Yeah.
But the difference is that when you have a 30-unit building, you're playing with the big boys now. You're not like buying small properties. That's good if you want to stay small. But if you want to actually make a living in real estate, you kind of have to...
Scale is important.
Yeah, you have to go bigger.
Right.
And if you've done well with a 3-family and then a 6-family and then you're at a 10-family, you have to think to yourself, okay, I know my business model. If I have a 40-unit building or a 50-unit building and I can get there and I can sell off what I had, invest that money and have one building, that alone is going to help you leverage your business.
Yep.
You're going to be considered taken seriously for your business.
Right.
People are going to be like, you're playing with the big boys now.
Right.
You know, you're going to be taken seriously, you know? And so there's different ways to look at it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think like, you know, starting out and like getting your first property and scaling up is certainly one of the, that's the goal, I think, for everybody.
Yeah.
I think, you know, the most important thing is like staying focused, minimizing mistakes on the way, being a good allocator of capital and time to be able to scale up. But you're working on a project right now, right? What are you working on right now?
Multiple projects, but one in particular that I've put my heart and soul into is a 48-unit, 6-story, 65-foot property that I'm building that I own myself.
Wow. Where is this? Is this in Brooklyn as well?
This is now in Jersey City.
This is in Jersey
I
City.
saw an opportunity. Again, the mentor brought me to Jersey City and said, this is what I'm picking up and you should pick up some property. And I did. And it's paying off big time.
Yeah. So, you know, I'm trying to imagine you know, doing this project. This is the ground up construction.
This is ground up.
So you wearing that like hard hat and you're on site during this entire project? What does that look like?
Not just yet, because, you know, struggling to work with municipals to get all your permitting.
Yeah.
You know, it takes a lot of time and a lot of work to be able to put yourself in it. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
You have to really kind of push and work and tug and just get what you need. It's really like about pulling like a rope, right? You're just pulling the rope and you're pulling the rope and you're pulling the rope and it's hard, you know, it's like it gets harder.
Yeah.
You know, and the end result of it will be everything. I have to get from A to B. And when you're doing it for other people, and now you're doing it for yourself, I mean, it's
different.
Yeah. I'm getting gray fast. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, like, so how does one fund a project like that? Like, for instance, if I wanted to buy a house, I could just like walk into Bank of America and they're going to be like, yeah, you got a 750 credit score. Like, here's a loan for like 500K or whatever. Yeah. It has to be different at the 48 unit scale.
Yeah.
How does that work?
Interesting you asked. Magic. You need to surround yourself with the right people. And I'm going to say that across the board for all of real estate. energy breeds energy. So if you're that really determined, hardworking, focused fellow that wants to make something happen, you're going to attract people that are going to want to work with you.
Right.
And that's one part of it. The other part is that, I've worked my way through time of owning those smaller houses and going bigger and taking chances and going larger to scaling it to this one property.
Right.
And I have a really great team of people. I have good people around me that support me.
Right.
I've been very diligent about my finances, about all the mortgages that I have, making sure that I'm on point at all times, and surrounding yourself with the right people and that are going to challenge you to up your business.
Right.
Meaning that some people that I work with, some are, on a much larger scale than I am, possibly will ever be. And learning from those people, talking to them and trying to understand how they've done it, it really gets my gears turning.
Right.
To really push ahead. So I would say that being really focused on your finances, taking opportunities and seizing those opportunities as they come to you, going to networking events, meeting the right people. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. So, what I'm hearing is when it comes to financing larger properties, it's a little bit different than like walking into a bank. Like your reputation matters, right?
Yeah.
Because when you're doing ground up construction, like if I bought this apartment, for instance, the apartment is already here. They're like, do you have a 9 to 5? You can pay the rent.
Yeah.
When you're doing a construction, there's the dependability aspect of like, can you execute on this?
Right. And also what plays into that is having good weathered partners and mentors that can help you with that process.
Right.
You'd be surprised what like the back end of these things look like as well. It's not all like, roses and flowers. Like there's a lot of maneuvering that one has to do to be able to get a construction loan at the capacity that I'm constructing this property.
Right.
To be able to attain that loan. As a matter of fact, I'll tell an interesting story, if you don't mind.
Of course.
Okay.
We're all here for interesting stories.
So with my properties, and you never know about people all the time. So I bought these properties. I had a partner. There was multiple properties. His son got involved. I decided it wasn't for me. I bought him out. He bought me out. At the same time that I was buying, I bought the neighbor's building too, so I could make my development even larger.
Right.
Without telling him. He thought it was smart in the end that I did so. Then you have to get the plans approved and, all the engineering for it. And then you rely on the municipal to pass you through. And then, you go on from that point and get your construction loan. The process of everything takes a long time, and you're dealing with a lot of different people and a lot of different mentalities and whatnot. So prior to getting the construction loan, I had a land loan.
Land loan?
A land loan,
okay.
yeah.
What is a land loan?
A land loan is that you want to acquire land,
Okay.
or you're already a partner on the land, and then you want to buy it, let's say 100%. So
Okay.
you take a mortgage on the land.
Okay.
Right? And that mortgage is short term. So it's considered a hard money, high interest loan for the land. So you get approved and then you get out of the land loan by getting a construction loan.
Okay.
It happened to be that my situation, which I didn't understand at first, why is the lender not really like working with me here? And I'm like trying to get this construction loan.
Right.
6 months go by. That cost quite a bit of interest. And at the 11th hour, I realized the whole time they were trying to actually see if I would default because they realized that the property that I own has a value to it. And I had approved plans and it was all approved.
Right.
And they made life difficult, but I only realized it at the day before the closing, that they were really trying to press me and make it difficult for me because they were trying to be sharks.
Wow.
To see if I would default and maybe they would take my properties.
Wow.
Put me into bankruptcy, and then they would develop it themselves or sell it, knowing the value of it.
Right. That's shady.
Yeah.
That's so shady.
Yeah. So the land is worth X,
Right.
but with approved plans, it's worth Y.
Right. Yeah, because it like you might have a value of a land, but when you say like, oh, actually like it's zoned and approved for a 20-story building, all of a sudden that is not just a piece of land anymore. It's actually a future 20-story building.
Right. And you know what's humbling for me is I'm not going to say that I was always inclined to read tabloids, but everybody's always interested in knowing a scoop on something.
Right.
Like, why did they break up, or why did this happen?
Yeah, spill the tea.
Right? It's only human nature. Well, in real estate, there's actually sites that have all of the data and transactions that happen every day.
Right.
And there's one site in particular. Today I was looking at it and they're like, residential building, Williamsburg, $80 million bankruptcy.
Whoa.
You have to think to yourself, you live Williamsburg.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Hot. Like, how could you, what could have gone wrong that you're going into bankruptcy on an $80 million residential property where the rents are skyrocketing?
Of course, yeah.
What happened? What's the story behind
that? There's a question.
I'm always interested in hearing that. And I felt like what I just told you in my story was almost that.
Yeah.
These lenders were like sharking me. Like I was like bait. They were just swimming around waiting for me. They didn't even say, congratulations, you're closing on a construction loan. That's great. If you ever need our services again, let's do business again.
They were like, we're going to steal your cookie while you sleep.
Yeah. And it was like, I never want to speak to you guys again.
Wow.
They wanted to really take advantage of the nice guy.
So for the newbies out there who want to know about following the real estate news, what website should they check out?
There's a few. There's one I remember when they started in New York. It was called The Real Deal.
Okay.
If you understand data, which a lot of like people that work in like finance would, like Pincus & Co. is a real underground one that I really like because it's like just a cool site. It's $10 a month. CoStar is really good.
Okay.
I belong to CoStar. And there's a few others. There's a new one called 1031, which is pretty cool. And that's like, it's like trying to be scandalous and it's good. It's meaty.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I always write these people that, operate these. Well, I think they do. And I'm always intrigued by like their business model and how they do it. And I always ask, like, I would love to advertise with you for my real estate website.
Yeah.
And by the way, on another note, my website for my brand is a full-time job for somebody.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. So, and that's what's really helped put my business on the map. So one part of the business can be like, yes, your finances, you have assets, you have property. But when they see that, wow, and he manages these properties himself and he rents them out himself.
Yeah.
Like, wow, I would like to invest money with him. So that's kind of where I'm headed.
You're just like working toward like verticalizing your business.
That's right.
Right? Like you manage the entire pipeline of tenants coming in and you manage the entire supply side where you're doing the development yourself.
Right. And I'm starting to learn more about acquisitions.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, I only have an associate's degree. I only went to college for 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
You only have an associate's degree.
That's all I have.
And you learned everything else by rolling up your sleeves and getting it done.
Yeah.
Wow. So Dave, if you could give us a book recommendation, what would it be?
There's a book that I've been reading and I leave it by my bedside. It's one of those books that I could pick it up, read any chapter and get inspired to read. very interesting fellow. He passed away last year. I think he was about 80 years old. His name is Sam Zell. And you could find the book on Amazon. He wrote, Am I Being Too Subtle?
Am I being too
subtle? So
okay?
So he was this unconventional asset manager, developer, owner of property, made billions of dollars, but also rode motorcycles and went skiing and had a good life and, had a few different marriages and lived a very interesting lifestyle and such a brain. What a mensch.
Right.
His brain and how he was able to start his business, which started when he was 18, 19 years old, going to the University of Michigan. And in the 50s and the 60s, he started renting out. He actually started buying houses at like 19 years old and was renting them to students.
Wow.
And that's how his business started.
Wow.
And then he took that portfolio, sold it, went to Chicago. He went to school, he went to law school, and he just, started this acquisition business. And, he was one of the greats in real estate of all time.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I mean,
what a legend.
So inspiring to read that, like, he liked motorbikes and he liked skiing. Like, you don't hear that about landlords much.
Yeah. Yeah, you just assume that there's just like, either they're like grandmas who own like one building, or
Right.
like there's just like these real estate moguls with like millions of units, and they just don't care about tenants. They just like turn them over.
Right. Yeah. And so those people are concerned about the monetary aspects of the business. For me, I really enjoy what I do. I'm not going to do something if I don't enjoy it, right? Mm-hmm. And not everything in life is enjoyable. People don't like their jobs and whatnot. I've worked hard to carve my own path so I could do what I wanted to do. And for the record, my mom was a school teacher. My father was a police officer, NYPD. So I came from, the suburbs of Long Island, kind of limited to what I was capable of doing. But it wasn't until I started looking at Thrasher magazine, Surfer magazine, Surfing magazine, BMX Plus, that I saw this culture that was like, this is what I want. And if I want it, I'm going to have to work for the bike, for the surfboard, for the skateboards. And I want to have the clothes. I want to look like them, and I want to be like them. And these people are characters, and they're interesting.
Yeah.
And they make art. And that's my roots of where things had gone. And, again, right place at the right time, met the right person, met the right people, took advantage, seized the moments. And this is what all these people that I've met have molded me to where I am today.
Yeah.
So if it wasn't for these opportunities and the people, for better or for worse, that molded me, I don't know if I would be in the position I'm in now.
Right.
And a lot of that has to do with like really observing, listening, talking to people, putting yourself out there, taking risks. Don't hold back when you're talking to people. You never know where there's an opportunity.
Right.
Yeah.
100%.
I think it's interesting too. It's very similar to having a relationship, whether it be a love relationship or a business relationship. It's like you meet people, you talk to people, things synergize, things happen.
Yeah.
When I met my partner, I knew within the first 30 seconds of meeting him that he had the same enthusiasm as I did for his project and his building, and I was sold. Because for me, I saw that energy.
Yeah.
I saw a lot of myself. It was like, wow, that's the same energy as myself.
Hell yeah.
And that was what really kind of, like sparked me to pursue and get to know this person.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel very fortunate and blessed and lucky that I was able to meet that person. And I think that has to do with everything in life, right? We all meet different people all for different reasons at different times in our life, whether it be a business relationship or a love relationship, and there's times for everything. There's good, there's bad, like I've learned from a lot of these wealthy businessmen that they've taught me is that you make money, you lose money. As long as you make more than you lose, you're doing all right. You're good. And there isn't anyone that I've met that is successful that doesn't think that.
No, yeah. You win some, you lose some, as long as the outcome is income.
There's also another thing where I was told from a very old man. He told me that about taking risks, right? So if you take a risk and you lose, well, you just gained an experience.
Right.
But if you're just going to give away money, then, you're basically going to lose. There's no experience in just giving away money.
Right.
In terms of business transactions.
Right.
Not from like a philanthropist.
Yeah. Amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, Dave Denis.
Thanks.